Hello, this is Archie Dunlop with Talking Astrology with Archie on Sunday, June the 11th, 2023. Today I want to talk about Donald Trump. Now, the reason I want to talk about him is that he has recently been indicted on some very serious charges. Now, me, like most people, when you see in the news Donald Trump, indictment, court, we don't care. Our eyes just glaze over and we just move on. And we just think indictment, so what? But actually, what does it mean? How has he been indicted? What's he been charged with? Has he been charged with anything? What's going on? So I thought I would look at this indictment and to give you some idea about what it's all about. I don't really know myself, but anyway, let's have a look at this indictment document. This might give us a taste of what Donald Trump is having to go through, or maybe about to go through, to give it some perspective. So you'll notice this indictment document has a date of June the 8th, 2023, which would be Thursday, and it says Clerk to the U.S. District Court in Florida, Miami. So this has an introduction, and the indictment has an introduction. It describes Donald Trump as a defendant. It's talking about the fact that he was president and he had access to various documents, lawful access. Then it's talking about what how he gathered documents while he was president, and then it says that the classified documents Trump stored in his boxes included information regarding defense and weapons capability of both the United States and foreign countries, United States nuclear programs, potential vulnerabilities of the United States and its allies, etc., etc. But to begin with, he was able to have these documents because he was president. Then he no longer was president, as this document points out. So as the moment he became a non-president, the moment he was no longer president, he was supposed to give this stuff up. He was no longer authorized to possess this information. And then it says, let's see, the Mar-a-Lago Club was an active social club which between January 2021 and August 2022 hosted events for tens of thousands of members and guests. After Trump's presidency, the Mar-a-Lago Club was not an authorized location for the storage, possession, review, display, or discussion of classified documents. Nevertheless, Trump stored his boxes containing classified documents in various locations at the Mar-a-Lago Club, including in a ballroom, a bathroom and shower, an office space, his bedroom, and a storage room. And then it says on 2 occasions in 2021, Trump showed classified documents to others as follows. So, for example, July 2021, Trump showed and described a plan of attack that Trump said was prepared for him by the Department of Defense and a senior military official. Trump told the individuals that the plan was highly confidential and secret. Trump also said, as president, I could have declassified it, and now I can't, but this is still secret. Now, at the end, towards the end of this document, we get some idea about the sort of penalties that Trump may be facing. So, just to give you some idea of what he might be facing. Yeah, you see, Donald Trump. Willful retention of national defense information. Maximum term of imprisonment, 10 years. Mandatory minimum term of imprisonment, not applicable. Maximum supervised release, 3 years. Maximum fine, $250,000. Okay, so that gives you the picture of the kind of trouble Donald is in, and we would have expected this to be reflected in his horoscope. Now, I should say that one aspect of Donald Trump's life, at least since he won the 2016 presidential election, is that he has been a major target of certain people, institutions, interests within and connected to the Democratic Party. You know, they didn't really forgive him for beating Hillary in 2016. And, you know, Hillary's a Scorpio and Biden's a Scorpio as well. You know, Scorpios have a reputation for being quite vindictive. Perhaps Hillary was kind of representative through her sun in Scorpio of the whole vindictiveness of the Democratic Party. You know, reality is Hillary lost the 2016 election because she apparently couldn't care less about white working class voters in, I don't know, the Lake States, places like Ohio, Pennsylvania. That's how she lost. She didn't even visit Wisconsin during the campaign, and she thought just by building rainbow alliances that would be enough to win. So really it was her fault, but she wanted to blame Donald for losing, and of course she wanted to blame the Russians. The Russians were somehow influencing it, and you know, it's all nonsense. You know, it was really her fault, and the people who were running her campaign's fault. But they couldn't accept that, so they had to blame someone, and so they want to get Donald in the same way that the Democrats want to get Russia. You know, they're prepared to risk a nuclear war to defeat Russia because, you know, Russia lost Hillary the election. Russia stopped Hillary from being the first female president. You know, that's certainly worth starting a nuclear war over, or at least risking the starting of a nuclear war over. Anyway, let's look at Donald's chart and see what is going on today, or what's been going on over the last few days. So there is Donald's chart. Now I must emphasize I will be looking at today's astrology, but I just want to first talk a bit about Donald. Now there is Donald's chart. So what's been going on in his life? And there is the chart for the indictment, June 8th, 2023. I mean, I've gone for 4:44 p.m. because that was one of the first Twitter announcements of it, but I don't know whether it's 4:44, but it was sometime on June the 8th. So if we do a bi-wheel, we're going to put Donald's natal chart and the indictment. Okay. There we have Donald's chart in the middle, and there we have the indictment chart. Now, there is Donald's midheaven. Donald's midheaven is at 2422 Taurus. And look at where transiting Mercury and Uranus were at the time of the indictment. Mercury was at 26 Taurus, just past his midheaven. Uranus was at 20 Taurus just before, and so the midpoint, we're transiting Mercury-Uranus midpoint would have been around 23 Taurus. So that's right on Donald's midheaven. So I think this was something very explosive, and it's something which, of course, has put Donald Trump in the spotlight. You know, one thing about Donald Trump is he's not been ignored. You know, usually when people stop being president, you know, they stop becoming newsworthy and they get forgotten and so forth. But you know, this is not happening to Trump. You know, the Democrats are making sure he is constantly in the public eye, and having a Mercury-Uranus conjunction on the midheaven, that's a great way to stay relevant, to stay in the public eye. You also notice at the time of the indictment, the sun was at 17 Gemini, so that was right on Donald's Uranus at 17 Gemini. So that more stuff that keeps him relevant. Then we had the lunar return. Now, the lunar return is about, the moon returns to the place it was at birth every month. So let's look at the lunar return just before the indictment. So this is set for lunar return is set for June the 4th, 2023. So just under a week before the indictment, there was a lunar return. And what do we see? We see Sun exactly on the midheaven. That's a sure sign of someone who is getting noticed. So I think, in a way, that might be quite fortunate. We also see that the ascendant ruler of this chart is Mercury, and Mercury's in the 9th house. And in astrology, the 9th house is often connected with law courts, higher courts. Now, recently in my videos, I've been talking about secondary progressions, and so you are perhaps interested in what's going on with with Donald's secondary progressions. This would be, approximately, he's 46. How old is he? He's 77, something like that. So this would be we'd be looking at the positions of the planets around 77 days after he was born. So this would be the positions of the planets for August the 30th, 1946. So what do we see in these progressions? So we see straight away that there's an exact Moon-Venus conjunction in Libra, and it's fairly close to Jupiter. So we've got Moon, Venus, Jupiter in Libra, progressed. Does that sound bad? I don't know if it does sound bad at all. This sounds quite harmonious. This is about relating to people, perhaps relating to his supporters. And you can see that progressed Uranus is trine the Moon-Venus conjunction. So I think it's quite good, these progressed positions. And remember 22 Libra, and let's look at Donald's natal chart. He's got his Sun at 22 Gemini. So this progressed Moon-Venus conjunction in Libra is trine his Sun. So just looking at Donald's chart in a very sort of brief way, and asking ourselves, this indictment, is it really the end of the world for Donald? I don't think it is at all. I think, in fact, it might benefit him, simply because he keeps things relevant. And as we know with Donald Trump, he has this amazing ability to turn supposedly bad news into good news. He takes the view, really, that all news is good news because it just keeps him relevant. Anyway, sorry to have gone on about Donald Trump for so long. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to look at today's astrology, and today is the 11th of... Okay, here we go. Right. Here are the planets for today, June the 11th, 2023. So, what's going on? We can see that the moon is just going into Aries. This creates a new energy. We've had moon in Pisces for some time. Pisces is a water sign. It's kind of sort of flexible, fluid. It goes where the wind blows, or more likely, it goes where the tide goes. Then it goes to Aries. So that is quite dramatic, quite high energy. Suddenly we're going to feel we want to do things. We're going to want to express ourselves, and maybe in some situations we'll be ready for a good argument. And this moon is trine Venus. It's sextile Mercury. So I think for most of us, this moon moving into Aries is going to be really quite fortunate. It's going to really make things happen, and we're going to be able to communicate extremely well. Moon sextile Mercury in Gemini is going to be very spontaneous. We'll have lots to say. I think we could have a lot of fun today. As far as relationships are concerned, particularly later in the day, the moon is making a trine to Venus. The moon and Venus are very sensitive, emotional planets. So when they come together in a trine, this can create a lot of warmth, and so relationships and romance and togetherness, they should all prosper. And I've just talked about Mercury being in Gemini. Today, Mercury has indeed moved into Gemini. So Mercury rules the sign Gemini. It's very good for the brain. It's very good for communicating. It's really good for telling the world about our ideas. So if you've got some plans, now might be the time to give them some more thought and just start talking about them. Because if you talk about what you want to do, you might get some very useful feedback. And that way you can fine-tune your plans and your ideas and really create something really great. I should also say that Pluto now, today, is out of Aquarius. It's left Aquarius. Now you see, Pluto is now back in Capricorn, and it stays in Capricorn until the end of January of next year. And in fact, I did a video a few days ago about what this means for Pluto to go back into Capricorn. I'll put a link in the description of this to that video if you can't find it. Perhaps this with Pluto in Capricorn, some of the talk of brand new, brave new world ideas like central bank digital currencies, all that kind of stuff. People might be de-emphasizing it a bit. Governments will just be into the boring business of trying to control our lives without necessarily needing to use a lot of technology to do it with. So it's not perhaps today that matters. I don't think many of us are going to feel something very different because Pluto has gone back into Capricorn. I think it's going to be more what happens over the next, 6-7 months between now and the end of January. One other thing I should point out is that the Sun is still conjunct the Venus-Jupiter midpoint. There's the Sun, there's Venus, there's Jupiter. We had this yesterday. It's still around. And this is at a time when the Moon is trine Venus. So I think this is really good for relationships. I think it's good for being positive about our ideas. So if you've got a good idea, make sure everyone hears about it, because I think you're going to get a lot of support. So overall, looking at the positions of the planets for today, I think for most of us, it should be a really good day. Now, as far as my forecast for the 12 signs are concerned, okay, here goes. Let's see. Aries, you are finding a new focus, and your bold statements can get immediate attention. Temptation still lurks. Taurus, you don't have to do everything in public, and your quiet gestures can gain you plenty of respect. Gemini, you are coming alive. After all, Mercury is moving into Gemini, and your talents and skills are becoming obvious. Friends and colleagues want to talk. Cancer, as the day progresses, your presence becomes difficult to ignore, and there's no need to explain yourself. Leo, you've a good idea how you want to express yourself, but circumstances intervene. It's all about fine-tuning. Virgo, prepare for future challenges by reading and studying and by checking the small print. Complexity brings luck. Libra, as chaos turns into order, relationships move to center stage, and it all starts as an animated conversation. Scorpio, there's still plenty of scope for getting seriously confused, but a bit of self-discipline goes a long way. Sagittarius, the volume goes up. Lots of talking, most of it nonsense, but a few unmissable gems. Have fun or don't bother. Capricorn, an issue that you thought was over starts to come back into view. This is because Pluto is returning to Capricorn. Capricorns have had Pluto in their star sign for a long time. Pluto left Capricorn, but now it's come back. So, an issue that you thought was over starts to come back into view. But it's an opportunity, not a horror film. Aquarius, you have to understand the emotional temperature, and it matters that feelings can be returned in full measure. Pisces, your financial skills are excellent and you can create clever solutions to long-term problems. Be flexible. Now, as far as the I Ching is concerned, as usual, I threw the coins in the air and I asked the question, what is Sunday going to be like for visitors to my YouTube channel? I haven't got any pictures. So the first hexagram I threw was hexagram 40, deliverance. A good hexagram, but we do need to act on it. So what that deliverance means is there's some aspect of our life which is a little dangerous. Maybe we're involved in something we shouldn't be involved in, or there are people around us who aren't doing us any good, and we have the opportunity to be delivered from the situation. We can just be helicoptered out, and really we don't really need any outside help, particularly if it's other people who are creating the problem. We just have to say, okay, that's it. We don't want to have anything more to do with these people. That's it. Over. Delivered. But I think there's a temptation to refuse help. Yes, we can see the exit. We can see a way to escape the situation. But we might decide to hang around anyway. And if we do decide to hang around anyway, we're soon going to be in trouble. In the worst case, we might find ourselves to be the victim of theft. The I Ching talks about robbers. It talks about someone who is in a position that is kind of above their station. It's like living in a poor neighborhood but owning a Rolls Royce and parking your Rolls Royce in the poor neighborhood. That's in the street. That's really asking for trouble. So we're in that some of us might actually be in that kind of situation. Perhaps having something expensive and putting it on view. I don't know, walking down the street with an expensive cell phone, something like that. We're in a situation where we could protect ourselves, but we decide not to. We're just oblivious or arrogant or whatever. And so we do have to be really careful. And if we continue with this and we refuse to be delivered and we persist in this dangerous behavior, the hexagram shifts. 40 moves to 28, and 28 is about a situation which is just overwhelming. It's preponderance of the great. It's dealing with a burden which really we can't hold up, and we could get crushed by it. So that's what we could get ourselves involved with. We could get into a situation which just is just too much for us, and yeah, we could almost get destroyed by it. So goes back to what I was saying right at the beginning. When we see an opportunity to get out, we need to take advantage of that opportunity straight away, because if we hang around and play with danger, we could get ourselves into real trouble. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say for today, and I will talk to you tomorrow.